Hello, welcome to Risal Reads. I'm Deja, and today we are going to do a recent reads. So the last time I did my recent reads, it was the rest of the books that I read for 2025, and it didn't necessarily end the worst. I didn't find like a new favorite, but it was a pretty solid way to end the year. And I will say, as I'm going through my 2026 reads today, I do think that it's been kind of the same this year. There were some kind of meh reads, but there also have been just a few solid books that I have read. I do have 7 books to talk about today, so let's go ahead and get into this video. So the first book that I have carried over from December all the way to, I think, early January, and this is If the Dead Belongs Here by Carson Faust. I did not know what to expect when I was reading this book. I knew that it was kind of like horror leaning, but I don't think I really like looked into like what it was about. I think I saw this when I was trying to look for more Native American rep for a reading challenge I was trying to do. I think it is, what is the book? I think it is the Herkit challenge that I was trying to fulfill a prompt for, and this was an upcoming book that I found. So, If the Dead Belongs Here is a Native American literary horror book, and I think definitely don't go into this for like commercial horror like vibes. Like, it's definitely not like a very fast paced read, and I will say that it was definitely like testing my patience, but not in a bad way though. I think last year, especially, like I had a very bad attention span, but this book, like the prose and like the actual story, like kind of forced me to read it slower. And I appreciated the story for like allowing me and like forcing me to do that. And I think I enjoyed the story even more because of that. But you're following this Native American family, and the story starts off with this little girl who ends up going missing. And from there, it's kind of like not, I don't want to say like a mystery on like what happens, because I feel like they kind of know what happens, but like it's not really like confirmed like what happens, but it's kind of like part like mystery of like what happened to this little girl. But then also the literary elements really come in as you're thinking about like generational trauma of what happened to this family. Like there's a lot of things that happen to this family. There is domestic violence in this, and like you can see that like how that carries through like generations for the different women for this, as well as just like other like content warning kind of generational traumas. And I will say that as I was reading this, it was very interesting, and I really loved how the author connected like just Native American practices. I was going to say folklore, but I don't think that's the right word, so I want to say practices and like beliefs into like the horror like elements. There are these creatures that they believed in, and it was interesting how those creatures like intersected with like the horror and the generational trauma aspect of it. And I will also say that I think it was like my favorite part of this story, like just how the author like interwove those Native American like beliefs and like cultural things into like the actual like horror elements. And I feel like when the author was like describing those like elements and like these creatures and stuff, like I was getting chills, and I was like, oh, this is like very like vivid and all of that. And I really love the story for that. But again, like I don't think that this would be like a commercial horror. It is more literary. I feel like it's more character driven and more of like the wide view of like this family. And yeah, it was a very interesting. Like I did enjoy it. I ended up giving it 4 stars. It wasn't like a new favorite, but I really loved what the author did with it. There were times that I thought that it was like a little too slow, even as it was like testing my patience. But overall, I thought that this was a solid Native American literary horror, and I'm intrigued to try more by this author. The next one I would say is also kind of literary, but I don't think it succeeded in like what I wanted. And this is A Wolf's Death and Blood. So I was reading this, And the thing with like Tamara Jeree's books, so I read The Fall That Saved Us and I enjoyed it. Like I did enjoy that book. But I did have criticisms that like the romance didn't feel like romance. Like it was more literary, but like it wasn't like so literary, I think. Like I feel like I could get like the themes and stuff. But with this book, A Wolf Steps in Blood, I feel like it was more erotic. It wasn't really romance, but like I feel like the book wanted to be a romance, but it had like these like themes of like something like the wolves and like the main character. Like I just, you could tell that I'm struggling to talk about this because the main like thing that I did not really like about this book is that like I don't necessarily think that I got what the author was trying to say. And I feel like that's because like part of the book is literary. Like I feel like the writing was there, definitely trying to lead to somewhere, but I just never really got it. Like I couldn't tell what I was supposed to be getting from this. But then on the other hand, you have this romance. It's very insta love, and it's not even really a romance. Like it's very insta lust. Like they just basically want to have sex with each other. But I feel like it was supposed to be more than that because of the things surrounding this couple. And I don't know what that was. And I don't want to reread it to figure it out because I don't think I like the story that much. Like, of course, the author's writing is like beautiful, but I feel like this story, I don't know. Like, I wasn't invested. I didn't really like the characters. I didn't really, I don't know. I just don't know what to make of it. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm intrigued to try their next book though. Um, what is the book? The Flowers I Deserve. I do have a paperback copy of that. So, yeah, I'm intrigued to see what I'll think of it, but I feel like they're starting to lean more into like this eroticness, literary erotic. Is that a thing? I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like so far The Fall That Saved Us was the strongest one that I have from them, but yeah, I don't know what to make of this. So, we'll move on. Sorry if there's been like a slight change. I had to adjust a little bit. But the next book that I read was actually a graphic novel called Erica the Great, which is from like the Stranger Things world. And I really enjoyed this. I wanted to pick this up because the last season of Stranger Things was a massive disappointment for me, just a complete waste of my time, to be honest. But I was really intrigued to like just get more Erica's perspective. And while this is connected to the Stranger Things world, I do think that this stood up like on its own. It's so short that like I'm not gonna say like too much about it, but basically you're following Erica, who is the younger sister of Lucas in the Stranger Things world, who's like part of like the core friend group of Stranger Things. But Erica is his younger sister, and Erica is getting into Dungeons and Dragons. And she's been playing by herself because she doesn't really have anybody to play with. But her mom is like, you basically need to go like make some friends. And so she invites all these black girls to sleep over or whatever to come play Dungeons and Dragons with her. And of course, nothing really goes to plan. So I really enjoyed this, especially like just like the black girl element of it. It was really fun to just see black girls playing Dungeons and Dragons. I've never played it before, but like just seeing them have fun together was really, really nice. I also just really like the black cultural elements of this. It just felt like it was including the black element that I feel like should have been included in Lucas's story in the Stranger Things world. Just like how involved like the parents are, especially during this like time period and all of this, like I feel like it included those elements a little bit better, but it wasn't like super like focused on that either. But it was just kind of part of the story. But again, like it was really just seeing black girls having fun with each other, becoming friends. I really enjoyed it. The next one was an arc that I got from NetGalley, and this is On Sunday She Picked Flowers. And this one was interesting. I will say it was interesting to read If the Dead Belong Here and then read this book because I was really hooked in the beginning of the story. You're following this black woman who has been basically abused by her mother, and she ends up like killing her mother. Um, and I think like If the Dead Belongs Here, there's a lot of themes of like generational trauma, of course, like bringing in those like cultural elements of being a black person in the American South. And so I think in the beginning, like I really enjoyed following the character, her like taking her agency, I guess, and like basically getting on the road to get to this haunted house that's going to be for majority of the story. Now, I will say that I thought that this was a good story, but I found myself like literally falling asleep in the middle. I was literally like falling asleep. I was so engaged in the beginning because I feel like the pace was like much better. But as we got to like the middle, I feel like it just became very like day to day life. And yeah, I just wasn't as invested towards the middle. And there is this introduction of this new character, which I found like their dynamics like pretty interesting. But I also I don't know. Like the middle was something for me. I said that the story is about generational trauma, and I feel like it is, but I feel like that was kind of lost in the middle. And maybe that's just the way that like the main character was like dealing with her relationship with her mother, but it doesn't really like come back until like the end. And with this haunted house, there's like black like cultural like beliefs too. Like there's haints and this house like it becomes kind of like her friend even though it's like haunted. And so I liked that element. And I know I probably shouldn't do this, but like when I'm thinking about like If the Dead Belongs Here with this book and they have like very similar themes, like I just feel like I just kind of didn't get what If the Dead Belongs Here gave me. Like I think On Sunday She Picked Flowers. I thought it was a solid story. But I wanted more a little bit of the horror elements. I feel like when the horror elements were present, I feel like they were definitely great. But I feel like a lot of times they were pretty much in the background. And I kind of wanted it to be interwoven with the story a little bit more. I don't know. I just feel like it wasn't as present as I wanted it to be in the middle. And then towards the end, like we get back to the generational trauma aspect of it. And like she learns a lot more. But yeah, I I just didn't love this one. Like yeah, I just didn't love this one. Now I'm saying all my criticisms, but like I said, like I do feel like the way that the black like spiritual practices with just like black southern beliefs with like haints and stuff like I feel like those were well done when they were there, but I don't know, I struggled in the middle a little bit. But yeah, like overall, I thought it was solid. I think it's one that people should still try out, but I will say that it's not one that like I absolutely loved and thought that it was a solid 4-star read. I gave it more of like a 3.5 because it was better than just like a mediocre book, but it was not like a solid 4-star read for me. The next one that I read was In the Shadow of a Fall, which is another arc that I got from NetGalley years ago. I'm trying to catch up on my arcs. So I finally was able to read this. I read it for the DNF book club. That's with the Melanin Library. And this one, I thought that this was an adult fantasy novella. It is not. Like, I don't know why this is pitched as adult at all. Like, it felt so young adult to me. And I say that it's a YA book because I feel like it follows similar beats to a young adult book. And I think part of the reason why that's kind of like diminishing my enjoyment of the story is just because, like, YA, like, it's simple. Like, you kind of just know. Like, it's simple. But, like, honestly, I just feel like this was like a I don't know, a better Children of Blood and Bone, but shorter. And I will say that this felt like this should have been a novel instead of a novella. Like, I don't think that this was a solid novella. Like, the way that it started off, it felt like it was the first part of a story as opposed to like a story that can stand on its own. When you are writing a series, you like each book should stand on its own. And I don't feel like this book stood well on its own. Like, it felt like it was the first act of a novel, and I feel like there was no reason for this not to be just a short novel to wrap up things. Like, I don't know. Like, this book was okay. I'm not gonna remember it at all. Like, no, I can't even remember it now. Like, I don't remember these characters' names. I know what happens, but again, like, I'm not gonna remember anything about the story. And I wouldn't even say like it's good for like crossover either, because like it felt just so YA. Like, there was like no like adult elements that I would say was in this book. And while I'm saying like a lot with like the criticisms, I will say like it's solid for what it is. Like, it is good with the Orishas. I didn't feel like it was like an outsider writing Orishas. It felt like the author like knew a lot about the Orishas, and it felt very authentic. Like, I don't know how you can tell, but it felt like how I was reading like a Suyi Davies Okubawa book, where like it just felt like that culture, like he knows that culture. And so like that's one pro that I would say for this story. And I guess what else? I guess the writing wasn't bad either. But again, like I just think my expectations were a little bit off for this because I thought that it would be adult, and it's not. So if you are okay with something leaning more young adult, I would say try this out. But I would also say it would probably be best to read the first and the second book that came out, whatever that second book is called. Probably read them together, because I feel like, even though I haven't read the second book, I feel like they're probably just going to go hand in hand, like, and read like one short novel. So yeah, that's all I have to say about this book. I gave it 3 stars. It was fine. Nothing amazing. Nothing I'm going to remember. So, moving on. The next one I read was a short story that I got for free by E.A. Noble, and this is Of Divinity and Sea. And I really like this one. At first, I wasn't sure how I would like this, because, like, I saw some reviews on Storygraph where it was just like, it's not like that good, and short stories aren't really that good. And I know what they mean. Like, short stories, not everybody can do them very well. And I feel like a lot of them try to tell like little novels in like a short story format, but it's different when you're writing a short story. So I was pleasantly surprised by like how much I did actually enjoy this. So this is like a gothic mermaid story, I want to say, and I really really enjoyed it. Like, at first I was like, I'm not sure how I'm going to like this in the beginning, but as I got more into the story, like, I really enjoyed it. So you're basically following this woman who has been captured, I guess, and trained to basically be like a servant to this guy who owns this manor. And when we're starting this short story, the woman basically has to train her replacement to do the same thing that she's been doing. And it's it was an interesting story. Like, I really thought that the writing really led into that gothic element. And I will say, most of the time, like, I'm not necessarily like a mermaid siren kind of person. Like, I like the aesthetic of it, but most of the time I don't like them. But I did really like this one. I feel like the mix with like the gothic and the mermaid esque like vibe, like, I feel like it fit very well together. And even just like the ending, like, I remember just like sitting like reading it, and I was like, oh, like, I really like this kind of ending. And I'm trying to be like very vague, because like it's a short story, so like it took me less than 30 minutes to read, and I don't know where you can get it, but it's one that I would say like try out, because I really did enjoy this. Like, I think that this could be an author that I really like. um I have read other things by them. I beta read another short story for them before, and I do have One Blood Meets Earth, which is their debut. So yeah, I'm intrigued to try more by this author. I think that they are a great writer, and when they're leaning into like the gothic, and even just like seeing how they put like black characters in the gothic, like, I I don't know. I feel like I could really like this author. So yeah, I know I didn't really say much about the story because it's so short, but yeah, it's one that I did enjoy. And the last one that I had to talk about is the one that I most recently read, and I'm very happy to be leaving off with this book for this video. And this is Burn Down Master's House. Y'all, like, I don't think I was prepared for this book. Like, I really enjoyed this book. Like, I think I gave it 4.5 stars. It wasn't a 5 star, but I gave it 4.5 stars, which is super close for me, and I needed that win. So, Burn Down Master's House. I thought that this was going to be just another hyped up enslaved story, and I was happy to be proven wrong. While this story does have those hard scenes like on page, like just showing what Black people experienced while they were enslaved, I do think that the way that it was handled was with so much care. And I also feel like it wasn't through a white gaze. A lot of the times when I'm reading a lot of books that feature the enslaved and like trying to show like what they went through, I feel like the scenes are just not handled with care, and it feels more, I don't, yeah, it just feels like it's more for like the white gaze, and it's more, I don't know, like, I don't, not commodified, but more, I can't even think of the word, but like, it just feels like it's not done with taste. And it feels like it's done to Black bodies and not to like Black people. Like, you don't really see the humanity, I feel like, when I usually read some of these stories. And I won't name any names, but you can probably guess what I'm talking about. Anyway, I feel like when I was reading this book, the thing that kept me reading was the centering of these Black characters. I feel like you really, really got to like know these characters. You really came to understand these characters. You really got to love these characters. And I feel like it centered their agency, and it really centered like their empowerment. Like, I just love that. And I feel like in this world that we are in right now, basically, I needed that. Like, just to center the people who are being done wrong and seeing them overcome this institution of slavery that was implemented in the Americas. Like, yeah, I needed this book. And I don't even know where to begin with like talking about this book, but like, yeah, like this left such a lasting impact on me. I do want to buy myself a copy. And yeah, I was so pleasantly surprised by this. Basically, this story is told in like four different like novelettes, I want to say. They're shorter stories that all kind of interconnect. And each story, you have like a different way that these characters like fought back their enslavement. Of course, in the beginning of each story, like you see how it's bad for them. But I feel like even like when you're seeing that, like you're like seeing that like they don't want this, of course, and that they want to like fight back. And like I said before, it was the agency and empowerment in each story that really got to me. Like, you really see Black people like supporting each other, really like taking things into their own hand and succeeding in burning down their master's house, literally and figuratively. And reading the author's note at the end, which sometimes I don't usually do, but for like historical purposes, I usually do just to see what it's inspired by. But seeing like the real stories that these were inspired by, it just made me even more happy, because I'm just like, you can read fiction and like see people like succeeding, but when you're actually giving me like real proof that like people were fighting back, like, you know it, well, I know it, but I feel like when you're given those facts of like people who fought back and won, I feel like for me personally, it just lifted me even more after reading this book, because the world right now has been rough. And I know I don't talk about it much. I've been trying to just manage my own mental health, but the world right now is on fire. And yeah, I feel like I needed this story to see that people won fighting back. And while it wasn't always pretty, people won. And seeing these stories, I feel like this wasn't just another enslavement story. Like I feel like this was handled with so much care. It centered black people, their joy, love, empowerment, their agency in a time when it was so easy to get lost in that. And yeah, I just really appreciated the story for that. I really hope that other people really appreciate the story for that. This will probably definitely be a favorite of the year for me just because of the emotional impact that it left on me. But yeah, I think that this was a great historical fiction book and yeah, I loved it. So happy to be leaving off with just such a high for my rating. I feel like overall that so far 2026, even though I've been in a huge slump, like not really wanting to pick up books and stuff, I feel like the books that I have read for the most part have been like solid reads. It's just been taking me a long time to read a lot more. But yeah, that wraps up all of the books that I read for 2026 so far. I really hope that you have enjoyed it. Please let me know if you plan to read any of these books or if you have read them, what your thoughts are. And if you don't want to do that, you can also just leave whatever emoji I put on the screen. But until next time, I will talk to you in another video. Bye.